Welcome back, everybody. And yes, I'm back. And I'm back to review The Batman. Okay, so I was very excited for The Batman when it was first announced with Ben Affleck, right? And unfortunately, he ended up resigning. So the next guy in line was Robert Pattinson, and this was not going to be a part of the DCEU anymore. So I was kind of bummed out about that, but I also was bummed out about Robert Pattinson playing Batman because I was like, him? Really? The reason I decided, you know what, I will give this guy the benefit of doubt. And by the way, spoiler alert, right? Spoiler alert. Oh my gosh. Before I continue, beware of spoilers, and not just for The Batman, but any Batman movie ever out there. So you've been warned. Now, back to the review. So Robert Pattinson, just to jump ahead, he was fantastic as Batman. But I will get back to that later. The reason I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt is because Heath Ledger, when it was announced for The Dark Knight that he'd be the Joker, I was like, Heath Ledger? Because there was talks of Johnny Depp and whatever. So I was like, Heath Ledger, he's going to be the Joker? And he proved everybody wrong, including, he was arguably the best Joker on the big screen. So I was also excited because of the few trailers that I've seen. The trailers just looked really good for the Batman. So after watching this film, I gotta say that I wasn't crazy about it. I really wanted to be, but there wasn't, first of all, as much hype about this movie like there was for Spider-Man No Way Home. But we understand because we all knew that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are gonna come back. But watching Spider-Man No Way Home, and there were people that said that it felt like it was too much of a long movie. I didn't think so. I actually enjoyed every minute of it, right? But here, I felt like it was too long, and I think it's not because it was actually too long, but because of the way it was put together. So yeah, it felt like it just dragged, and I'm not saying it was a bad movie, but I don't think it was a very good movie either. I just think, yeah, it had amazing potential, but I shouldn't really be feeling like this when watching a Batman movie, and I don't remember feeling like this when I saw any of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. But to my surprise, so many people loved it, and they're saying, oh, this is just as good as The Dark Knight, which I, again, disagree. I think, first of all, this is an unpopular opinion. I think Batman Begins is the greatest Batman movie, and it's the greatest one in the Nolan trilogy. I love the origin story. I love how Batman became Batman, the message, the heart of the film. The Dark Knight was just, let's just dive into the action and the superhero-ness of it, but that's fine. But I still think that the Batman is definitely not better or just as good as the Dark Knight. I did not feel like this, and I'm also surprised that I'm in the minority here because when I read all about the Batman online, most people love it. They're raving about it, and they're like, it's brilliant, it's so good, whatever. And I'm just like, really? Okay. That's very interesting. But I want to talk about what I first really do like about the movie, all right? And then I'm going to talk about what I don't like. But first, what I do like about the movie. I love the dark tone of the film, okay? I love that it was like a film noir style, and perhaps that's what they were going for. I think the cinematography was brilliant, and it was mysterious. It was more of a detective story. So it was a breath of fresh air because it was a little different than what I'm used to when watching a Batman movie. I loved, how different it was. So also when Michael Keaton's Batman happened, right, the 1989 and the 1992 versions, of course, I don't even really, okay, like the Val Kilmer and the George Clooney Batmans, they exist, but they were a nightmare, okay? And when I heard of Batman Begins, I believed at first that Batman Begins was a prequel to the Michael Keaton series. Okay, I didn't think the Val Kilmer and the George Clooney series would even count, but it ended up being a reboot. And why Batman Begins was just so amazing is because it restored the Batman franchise in the movies. Okay, it gave Batman more respect again. It made Batman more honorable again. Okay, and so it was just sleek, and everybody was younger, and it was just clean, and I just really loved Batman Begins. However, I think the Batman with Robert Pattinson is what I expected when I heard about Batman Begins. Okay, now let me explain. Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises, that trilogy, it was fantastic, but it just feels like its own thing. I don't know how to explain it, because when you look at Batman Begins, right, they didn't have any of those classic heroes that were like showcasing the movie, like the Joker or the Penguin or anything like that. Batman Begins had the Scarecrow, who wasn't even like the main highlight, and then Ra's al Ghul, who, it had to do with Bruce's past, but again, he was pretty much the highlighted villain, but he wasn't like necessarily the most marketable one either. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining it right where people understand, but the whole Nolan universe just felt like its own thing outside of what we're used to when watching Batman in the cartoons, the Michael Keaton series, and the comic books. So the Batman, however, it just felt more like an authentic comic book Batman. Okay, and that's what I liked. And I also liked Robert Pattinson's Batman voice, because I think in Batman Begins, Christian Bale's voice was fine. It was just something we weren't used to. But in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, it was just overkill. And it was like, and that's the only thing that really hurts that Nolan trilogy. I think it's pretty much his Batman voice. If he got the voice right, then it would have been flawless. Robert Pattinson at times felt like he was almost going to go the Christian Bale direction, but he was quick to never cross that line, which is great. I thought he nailed the Batman voice, which was amazing. So what I didn't like, again, is that it dragged at times. It's like, get to the point already, man. You know what I mean? And I felt like there's a couple of times I wanted to fall asleep, and dude, that doesn't happen usually when I watch superhero movies, and it shouldn't happen. It was also hard to follow the plot at times, and I'm like, what? Wait, what? And to be fair, the movie theater I saw it in, I don't know, usually it's fine, that movie theater is fine, but here something was off. Like, it felt like everybody's talking low, but then the music was really blasting loud. And then the picture where, you have a steady shot, and then sometimes it's like dark, and then like it'll light up, and then it'll be dark again. It just, something was maybe off. So I definitely should see it again, okay? And I will. But just to mention, at the way I'm feeling now, I would only see it again because I feel like I have to, make sense of the movie, just to, make sure that like I got everything. But it's not a movie where I just sit down, relax, and be like, let me watch a Batman movie. Let me enjoy a Batman movie. With the Dark Knight trilogy, I absolutely feel like this. I'll even feel like this with the Michael Keaton Batman movies. So anyway, what else I didn't like was that Bruce Wayne was just too monotoned. He was like, I didn't feel like I was watching a man. I felt like I was watching a disturbed teenage boy. And I understand, like, he has baggage and things like that, and they wanted to really showcase that. But he was acting like that toward everybody, toward Alfred. When he was in public, he wasn't that, so Christian Bale also, we actually saw Christian Bale's parents, not Christian Bale's parents, but Christian Bale's Batman parent, Bruce Wayne parents, die in Batman Begins. And yeah, he was dark and disturbed at times, but he knew how to have a right balance to those emotions, if that makes sense. And I never felt like he was overdoing it with that. And I did like that when he went out into the public, he was just like this playboy, and he really covered up who he really was as Bruce Wayne. So I think Christian Bale was brilliant because he played two different versions of Bruce Wayne, and he played Batman, right? Robert Pattinson just played Batman. That's what it feels like, because he was exactly the same as Batman, as Bruce Wayne. And what I really liked, though, about Robert Pattinson was his Batman. I thought his Batman was great. I loved that he was weird and silent. I mean, a guy in a bat suit, yeah, he's going to be weird. And I just like that. I like when the cops were just like saying things to him. He was just stare them down, like things like that. So that was really cool. And I do want to critique the fighting scenes. So I think the greatest fighting scene I've seen in a Batman movie was in Batman versus Superman, Ben Affleck's fighting scene. That was just incredible. The greatest Batman fighting scene I've seen on the big screen ever. Even like Christian Bale's wasn't that great, but in comparison. But I think Christian Bale's like coolest fighting scenes were in The Dark Knight, where he was in the beginning in the parking lot when he first disarmed the two fake Batmen and then went after all the mob guys. But it's okay. With Robert Pattinson, it wasn't as impressive as the Ben Affleck one, but that's fine because it was still good, and it was appropriate for the kind of movie that this was, okay? So I have no beef necessarily with his fighting scene. So the message of the movie was, that's why, I mean, I didn't care necessarily, but at the same time, I was just a little confused. So basically, he was questioning why he was doing what he was doing, because look, he's been Batman for 2 years, and as much crime as he fights, he still sees crime coming back. So it's like, what is he doing necessarily to solve the problem? And it's funny that he says this in the movie, because I was actually thinking that like before, like no matter how many, okay, so Batman comes to town, he beats up these bad guys. What happens one day in years to come? Batman dies. Then what? Then crime just comes back. Is there really, So basically, when toward the end, when one of the Riddler's henchmen, if you will, or followers, when he was asked, "Who are you?" and he said that he was Vengeance, mocking Batman, Batman realized, like it clicked, like his approach to being Batman was wrong, and that he should be more hope for good people rather than having bad people fear him. Now, that's a little confusing for two reasons. Number one, he just jumped into the water. He went to guide people out from being trapped. So he only did that when he decided, hey, I should do this. Like, he didn't think to do that before. I mean, it's not like he never saved anybody, right? In the beginning of the film, when that crew wanted to beat up the man in the subway, he rescued him pretty much, right? So it's not like he's never done that. But fine, after he had that realization, he jumps in the water, he lights up a flare, and he helps guide people to safety. Although it didn't really feel like they needed him. It's like they were just, waiting around for Batman to come? They could have just went out on their own. But I guess they needed that light. I don't know. But fine, that wasn't even it. So it's like, my confusion is, it's like, fine, you made this realization, great. But what, you're going to do the same thing anyway. You're going to beat up bad guys to be the symbol of hope for good people instead of being the symbol of fear for bad people like Christian Bale's Batman was, right? Okay, fine. It is what it is. I just got to talk about the Joker real quick. So again, in Batman Begins, the whole theater flipped out when, in the end, Gordon says, there's a guy, we need to watch out for him, and he gives him a calling card, and he turns it around, it's the Joker. That was like really exciting, really incredible. And this movie tried doing the same thing, which wasn't as exciting because nobody in the movie theater really reacted. I do not hate it though, because number one, they cannot emulate what they did with Batman Begins. That would be lame. And number two, listen, I think they did their best they could, and it was very subtle. I was like, wait a minute, is that the Joker? Is that the Joker? And I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a really cool way to introduce the Joker into the series. And he's probably going to be in the sequel, and that's cool. I wouldn't doubt that the Riddler, and that's another thing with Batman movies from now on. I do want to see the same bad guys reappear in future film, right? Like, why can't we see the Riddler again? You know, maybe not necessarily to steal the thunder from the Joker, but still like working alongside him or whatever. And I'm sure that the way the movie was set up, it was also set up for the Penguin to take over. Real quick, I forgot to mention one little thing I also didn't like. Okay, I'm gonna mention that later. Anyway, so yeah, so sorry, Kristen Stewart. By the way, she wanted to, play the Joker, and they're like, yeah, okay, because they didn't want to tell her probably until the movie came out, but the Joker's already there. Sorry, you're too late for that, which is pretty cool. Because I don't know if it's true, I heard she cheated on Robert Pattinson or something like that. So this was kind of like really cool for that to happen the way it did. I do want to mention something though, and I guess this will be to sum that up, but the acting was incredible. I thought the casting was incredible. Okay, I loved seeing an authentic Catwoman, an authentic, I guess Penguin. Because the Zoe Kravitz Catwoman felt more like Catwoman that you'd see in the cartoons and in the comics. The Anne Hathaway Catwoman just didn't necessarily feel that way. The only criticism I have is the casting of Falcone. I felt like, again, I know that actor. I know he's in a lot of Adam Sandler movies. He's done The Night Of. I forget his name. He's a brilliant actor. He did a great job in this movie. However, I felt like he was miscast. I didn't see him as a Falcone. It just didn't feel right. I felt like maybe he would be a cop or like a detective, or he would be one of the guys that works for Falcone. Okay, I don't see him as Falcone. It just didn't feel right. Having said that, yeah, again, maybe if I watch it again, I'll like it more, but I just, if it wasn't for the dragging at times and it flowed better, then I think I would really, really, really love this movie. Anyway, this is it. This is my The Batman review. If you guys have any comments, please put them in because I want to read what you have to say. Like the video if you like it, and subscribe if you like my videos. All right, we'll talk soon. Until next time.